So let's jump into the demo. What are we looking at here, Vasi?
All right, you're looking at JetBrains PyCharm, and I picked this one because Python is not a language that I like, but that's exactly why Code Whisperer is very useful. So let
You
me.
just alienated a
I know,
large portion
I
of our
know, I know,
audience.
I know, I know. I just don't
You
like.
might be able to redeem yourself by saying you love Julian.
Okay, all right, all right. Anyway, I'm gonna be doing a series of demos, and each one sort of takes it up a notch a little bit. That's
Okay.
what I'm gonna try and do here. Um, so the first one, it's kind of going to be a utility kind of thing that I think most developers want to do. They end up doing at some point, right? Code Whisperer is enabled, and the AWS toolkit has been installed. You guys can see it on the left side of the screen. So I'm going to just start by saying a function to convert a JSON file to, and you see Code Whisperer just popped up, even my comment. All right. So I'm just going to accept that, and I want to specify a few more things. Like I want to say things like the keys of the JSON file are the column names. Again, you see that Code Whisperer pop that up. I'm going to accept that as well. And then I don't care about the values much. And now let's see what Code Whisperer does. It just generates the function name. I'm just going to accept it. And there is a set of code, a bunch of code that had just popped up. And then you can see this little thing at the bottom, and those are the choices. It says 1 of 4, and so I could probably go through the various options it's given me, and try and pick the one that I like the most. And I'm probably going to pick this one. You can see what it's doing here. It's taking the keys, it's writing the header with the keys, just like we said, and then it's writing all the rows. So I'm just going to pick that. And so I guess that's kind of done. I don't want to print anything. And then if we just go in here to an empty area and then see what else it's going to, you can see that what it did here is now it's saying a function to convert a CSV file to a JSON file. So it's the opposite of what we just did, which is a common thing that most developers do. Like they write a transformation from one side to the other, and it's very likely you want the transformation from the other side as well. So we can continue doing that, and we'll see what happens here. I don't want that thing. So, and there's the function name, CSV to JSON. I accept it, and then I keep going. And again, I've got a bunch of options here. You can see it uses a dict reader on the CSV data, and then it's dumping it into the JSON file. I could just accept that and I'd be done with it. So that's sort of the first little demo that I wanted to start with, so that you get used to the interface. You kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
What I'll do next is I'll go to a more obscure API, and I say obscure because most developers that use AWS, they've used the S3. The typical examples are upload a file to S3, or they're doing some EC2 stuff, right? And so Transcribe is one of my services, the speech to text service. Unless you are an AI developer, or unless you're a developer that wants AI in your app, you probably won't know about it. And so this is a situation exactly like that. So what I'll start with, and because we're going to be demonstrating use of an AWS API here, I'll start with variables for AWS credentials, right? And you can see there's the access key, but you also see that it's not giving me the key itself. And even though it may have seen some keys in the training data, there's a secret key, probably a region, and I guess I don't care anymore. Then the next thing I'll do is write a function to transcribe. I have to type right. transcribe a German. It popped up audio file, but I want to say a German audio file to text. You can see it popped that as well, right? So it's giving me the name of the function. I accepted it, and this is going to be some elaborate. This is going to be more elaborate. So we just wait for it. You can see a lot of stuff happening here. The bottle client is created with the transcribe thing. That's typically how you can see that the access keys and the secret keys and the region from above, the variables are being used to generate that variable. And then you can see the cool thing here. It understands the locale. It's DDE, and so you don't have to look up the documentation. There's a transcribe start transcription job. Right, and then here it returns the job, right? And so there's probably more options. There's probably more options down there, but I'm just gonna.
Now, if you speaking of options, if you knew a little bit about transcribe and say previously defined a variable with a channel type, which is one of those parameters that transcribe would take, would it have inserted that in the right place?
Yes, absolutely. So the way Code Whisperer works is it gets context in the call, and the context for it depends on where the cursor is. It's code around that cursor, and it could even be code in other files in the project. And so it uses that to figure out what's the best way to do it. And some of the options may include it, some of the options may not include it, right? So that's kind of how it works. So let me accept this. And maybe rather than returning the transcribe job, maybe what I could do is, just delete this thing here. And see what it would generate. Maybe it would generate the same thing. But okay, wait for the transcription to complete. Okay, while true. And let's see what happens. Yeah, okay. So it's actually parsing the thing, going into it multiple levels to figure out the status, sleeping for a while, and so on and so forth. And so you could keep going with this, and its discoverability of these APIs, it's now a lot easier. You don't have to go to Stack Overflow and look for the snippet. The snippet's right there on the IDE. All right, so that's the second demo that I wanted to show, and I wanted to show how it would work on an AWS API. That's not very common for people to know about. Then the last thing that I probably would do, and this is where let's actually create something that we actually run and see if it works, right? And so, what I'm going to try and do is write a function to plot sine of x, and let's say 2 star cosine of x. Come on. With red and blue dashes for the range minus pi to pi. All right, that's a lot of stuff.
Now, granted that you know we always have to pray to the demo gods, so to speak, and but you would think that given the nature of what's happening, it'd be fairly robust to typos. Is that what you find in general?
In general, when I'm writing code, I'm writing it for the next person that's going to be looking at it more than anything else. So there's this whole philosophy, and I could talk about it for hours. A good code base is one where, let's say you have a new developer in the team, that person can add a new feature in the shortest amount of time. And I think that's possible only if your code base is self-explanatory. It's decoupled, isolated. Responsibilities are isolated. So yeah, even if you could say, okay, why can't we correct the typos? Maybe that would be a future thing that we do. It should be possible to do. I don't see a reason why that won't work. But in general, the context is a lot of stuff. And so if, let's say there's a spelling error, in fact, you know what I'm going to do right now? Let me actually take this. Let me actually mess around with it. I don't want that argument, right? So it generated that. I'm actually going to change that. And now let's see what it does. It just generated all that stuff, right? And you can see It's using minus pi to pi, and it's got the red dash on sign and the blue on the. Let me just accept it, and then if I go here, the program actually running. So that's kind of the last thing that I wanted to show, that it can do things that are pretty elaborate. And in the end, though, the developer is responsible for the code, and I think the person needs to know what to accept, with the options. How does he want to take this further? So that's why we call it it's more of a companion than. It's not the thing leading the way. It's the thing that's helping you not have to go look things up in multiple places.
Yeah.
So
it's your typo, not Code Whisperer's.
Right. Right. But I think that's definitely something that we should be able to handle. So you've just given me a good idea for our roadmap. Cool. That's all awesome. I had to show.
Well, Vasi, great conversation and great demo. Thanks so much for taking the time to share with us a bit about Code Whisperer and more broadly the AI services portfolio and the way you think about all those things.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Sam.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.